l'ordre de la séance du 8 décembre 2025. Item number 2, Mayor and Councillors' reports. So I'll give my reports. So good evening and thank you for being here. Before we begin tonight, I want to address something directly. At our last meeting, an off-mic comment I made was audible in the room and online. It was inappropriate. I expect better of myself, and residents have the right to expect better from their mayor. I apologize for that comment. We have important work ahead, and I want to stay focused on improving services, strengthening operations, and moving Westmount forward. As you know from our last meeting, each councillor has responsibility for certain portfolios. Over the past 3 weeks, Council and our directors have been working steadily to re-establish clear priorities for the year ahead. Our focus is simple: better services for residents, stronger operations, and more responsive City Hall. We have met with our department leaders, our directors, who we find to be experienced, capable, and passionate. We have met the entire group and separately with finance, engineering, HR, IT, security, and public works. We have begun detailed work on both the operating budget and the PTI. The PTI is effectively a capital budget for a 3-year period. Our goal is to deliver a reasonable, responsible budget in early 2026 in January that strengthens essential services and supports the investments Westmount needs. This includes a careful review of staffing and operational efficiencies to ensure that any growth in the budget is tied directly to improvements in service delivery. Our budgets have to be approved in January and therefore may not reflect all our plans for the year. However, our Finance Committee continues to meet on a very regular basis with a goal of continuous improvement in financial and administrative matters. Our biggest challenge is infrastructure restoration, repair and replacement. As promised, I have asked for a complete assessment of the status of our infrastructure, and that includes, of course, roads, sidewalks, water systems, buildings, and hydro. Accordingly, the DG is working with our senior engineers and others to prepare this report, which will also include recommendations for a timeline and specifics to repair or replace as needed. The report is targeted to be finalized by April 30th. As part of the 3-year capital budget, the PTI as it's called, and public works planning, we are continuing our work on lead service line replacement. This is a long-term infrastructure commitment across Quebec and Canada, and Westmount is no exception. We are reviewing the current inventory, timelines, and funding programs to ensure that our plan is clear, achievable, and fully aligned with provincial requirements. Residents will hear more from us as this work progresses. Security is also a major issue. We have met our Director of Public Security and Westmount's Director of Police to discuss specific plans. I'm also working closely with the City of Montreal's Public Security Committee. We are also taking steps to improve transparency and how our internal committees operate, so residents have a clearer understanding of our priorities and decisions. This includes clearer reporting and clearer communication as we move files through City Hall. Did you know that you can usually speak to a live person when calling the office? In addition, I encourage the use of the Citizens Portal, which is relatively new, and Assistance Westmount, sorry. I also want to thank my colleagues on council for the commitment they have shown during this transition. We will not always agree, and that's a healthy thing, but we are united in our intention to serve this community the best way we can, respectfully, professionally, and constructively. With that, let's move to tonight's agenda and continue the work residents elected us to do. So we're at item number 3, which is the first question period. Maybe just before that, let me just fit. Another thing we're doing, an issue with the questions is that in the past, people ask questions at the meeting and we answer. There are a number of other questions that we cannot answer. We say we'll get back to you. We usually get back to the person who asked the questions. But in addition, what I would like to do is to be able to get back to the people here and follow up with what was asked last time and was only resolved afterwards. So I'd like to do that just before we move ahead to the first question period. And again, I have a template. I'm going through some of the questions that were not answered last time. So there was one question relating to the Holton stairs, which was asked last time, and we didn't have the answer. So the answer is our technical teams have been actively working on solutions to enable the steps to reopen safely and securely. These solutions must be both technically viable and financially responsible. As a last resort, a full construction would have been required, which would have extended the project until well into 2027. However, good news, a solution has now been identified that will allow the stairs to reopen in the summer of 2026, with work scheduled to begin very soon in the spring. So that's good news. That was a question from Alec Shamlian. We had another question from a lady on Victoria Avenue talking about the traffic and the difficulty of parking in Somerville Street area, especially after the opening of Cafe Olympico, and we have a lot of traffic from Metro. So the answer to that is we're looking at a renewal of the TAC mission. TAC is Transport Advisory Council. Its mission and strategy, we plan to look at the circulation, the speeding, in a more strategic manner. We're aware that this area has been a very busy corridor. There are a lot of businesses in the area. There's trucks that deliver goods to these stores. And of course, the recent opening of the cafe, it's good news. There's a lot of people, a lot of activity, but it's a challenge. But we will be looking at more closely and reviewing the traffic patterns to see what we can do to make the street safe and functional for all the users, the residents, the pedestrians, and businesses alike. That was from Ross Brown. We have another question we had from Alice Becker-Lair on Churchill Avenue, and she was talking about the orange pass for street parking near Selwyn. And the answer we have is that we have an online form for these types of requests. Residents are invited to submit a request using the citizen portal. Upon receiving a request, the traffic and mobility team conducts a feasibility study that includes a site visit and looking at preliminary data such as inventory of specific spaces in the area. The preliminary analysis, if it suggests that demand is close to 75 to 80% during 7 a.m. to 11, the traffic and mobility team will elect a formal parking audit. A report with a recommendation would then be submitted to the city's Transportation Advisory Committee, the TAC. The resident is welcome to submit a formal request. However, after looking at some numbers quickly, there are approximately 25 spaces on Churchill Avenue and only eligible permit holders, and there are numerous driveways, suggesting that demand may not be very high. Anyway, public security officers do enforce the parking, and we ask the resident to submit something in writing. We could look at it a bit further. Let's see if there are any other questions here. Yes, lead. I think it's Dana Evan asked a question about lead. So lead is a very important issue. Nobody wants to drink water that's contaminated with lead. There was a follow-up, I don't know if you saw it in the newspaper, in the local newspaper, a newspaper person called the DG, and the DG together with our engineers submitted a very lengthy report on the lead. So we have a lot of that information is on our website. We also have a lead program that is authorized by council until next January, I think, that allows for lead testing, okay? And we purchase also, it's in our budget to purchase filter replacements for people, and we do supply them where needed. So if you recall, the story with the lead is that the water is safe from lead. All the drinking water comes from Montreal. The issue is there are lead pipes from the city, center of the city streets to our houses, and it's in two parts. The first part is from this street, let's say, to a valve. There's a valve in front of your house, maybe some 20 feet from your front door. That's the city's responsibility. And then from the valve into your house, it's your water entry. That's our responsibility as homeowners, yours and mine. So these pipes traditionally were lead, and it does in fact contaminate the water. What we've done over the years is, as we redo streets, of course, we change the lead, we change it into copper. It's done as the street is being done, or it's other cases where it breaks. And I'll give you just an example. My own house, my water entry broke. It's a good thing I wouldn't know normally, but I noticed about 3 years ago the water pressure was way down. I said, that's odd, and I went and found the thing, and I found it's full of water. So the city dug up its part and replaced it with copper. It turns out that didn't solve the problem. The problem was on my side, so I had to pay on my side to replace it in copper. So I have both in copper. And guess what? I still have a small amount of lead, which is very strange. So the lead standard was much higher years ago. We were all exposed many years ago to lead. The permissible amount was 50 parts per million, if that's the right term, it's 50. And that was a standard for the province of Quebec. There was a lot of lead in paint at the time and in gasoline. So that's been outlawed for many years. So over time, the Quebec government has lowered the acceptable standard from 50 to 10 and 10 to 5. The current standard is 5. My own, after replacing my entry with copper, I have up to 2, it's considered extremely safe. It's considered as if there's no lead. Mine is somewhere between 2 and 3. So the city distributed to me one of these pitchers with water filter, and so I'm living with that. And so in my case, I was told no knowledge of why I would still have lead. It could be that somewhere in the house, the house is well over 100 years old, it's on Victoria, there could be a lead connection somewhere. So what I will do, it doesn't keep me up at night, but to be on the safe side, I got comments from a couple of people that I should look at and it's on our website as well, reverse osmosis system, which is available. You can buy it at Home Depot yourself and put it in. It's very inexpensive. I may actually rent one from a company called Culligan, who I've dealt with for 40 years. They sold me and still maintain a water softener system. So that's the story with lead. There's a lot of information on our website. It's way down. We are continuing to pay for and do testing for people, and we are continuing to pay for and supply filters, which will help you. And in addition, we're continuing our program that if you do want to change your water entry from lead to copper, you can get a subsidy for it. I did mine just before the subsidy. Wasn't eligible for the subsidy. But it's an important issue. I want you to be assured that you can get a lot of information on our website. It is an important issue. It's not practical for us to rip up all of our streets to redo it, but we're doing it au fur et à mesure as we do the streets. Up to now, I'm told approximately half the water entries on our side have been done as the streets were rebuilt, so about half are already done, and we will continue to do this over the next number of years. I hope that answers people's question on the lead. There was another question from Lucien Savard talking about the transformers, which sounded like a very scary thing because we have these transformers. Anyway, it turns out the answer is that Hydro Westmount transformers meet the PCB standards with our units at 0.03 parts per million, far below the 50.0 parts per million limit. Last year, all older transformers and their contaminated oil were safely removed under supervision of the ministry. The Glen site, which was referred to, we have transformers there. They're new, or they're verified, compliant, and they're stored temporarily. Security cameras and on-site staff ensure constant monitoring, with fire services ready to respond if needed. There is no identifiable risk for residents, and all pad-mounted transformers are hermetically sealed. That's the word. I think there's one last question was from Barbara Wynn talking about If a house is left neglected, it affects the neighbors. What can we do about that? Well, we're looking into this, but there is something new that I believe it's from this, I don't know if it's the city or the province of Quebec that has mandated that every city, including Westmount, by April 30th, issue a new bylaw which would give the city more power in the case where a property owner, and that would be for a building or a house, does not maintain it properly. It gives the city, and will give the city of Westmount, permission after certain procedures are taken and warnings are given that if the owner of the property does not act, we have the right to step in and clean things up and charge it to the people. So I think that will go a long way to helping us. I'm just looking to see if there were any other questions that weren't answered. There was a question about $80,000. Why was $80,000 given to the Merchants Association? We were supposed to, so the answer to that is that was in fact correct in the past. We are meeting with the association's representative soon to get additional information. There was another question from Lucien Savard. In effect, how will you inform us? Comment allez-vous fonctionner pour nous informer concernant nos suivis et répondre à nos questions? So this is what we decided to do. I decided that we would answer all these questions in an open meeting, the following meeting once we have the answers. I think there's another question here. One last one, which I think we answered. Wow, there's a lot of questions. There was a question from Annie Gilker about the eco-center. So the eco-centers are a Montreal responsibility. It's part of the agglomeration, and they serve like 19 arrondissement boroughs and les 15 villes, the 15 cities on the island. So we're not planning to build our own at this point, but we did say that we are looking at alternatives to reduce the what goes to the landfill, and we're looking at all kinds of things. But an eco-center may not be part of it. Samuel Dubé asked, comment voyez-vous les prochains projets? And that's he was talking specifically about the roads. So that's a very important thing. So what I've asked for, and I alluded to in my comments before, we've asked the administration to come back to us with a complete report, which will be done by the end of April, concerning the status of all our infrastructure, with a plan of how we're going to fix it. It won't be fixed overnight, but as long as we have a plan, we know exactly what has to be done, and we will do so accordingly. There was one question I remember that doesn't seem to be answered, and that was from, I think he just stepped in. He asked about the train station. Him over there, I forget his name. He asked about the train station. Could it be, have we considered what it could be used for? He suggested maybe for startups. So I have no answer for you other than we plan to go visit it. The council will go visit it in the month of January. There are a lot of issues with it. It's a heritage property on the outside. We can't do much with it. Access to parking is difficult, and there's train tracks not far from it. So there's a lot of restrictions, but we're trying to figure out what can we do. Like you were asking a good question. This looks like something we could do. We could do something good with it. What can we do? And we'll be looking into that. So thank you, and sorry to digress. I answered all those questions. So let's go back to item number 3, which is the first question period.
My name is John Fretz from Lansdowne Avenue. Good evening, everyone. And Mayor, thank you for going back over all the questions, because that has never happened here, and it's just such an important thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
There are 3 things on the agenda which I thought needed clarification. Items 13, 14, and 16. 13 was about borrowing money or something. Additional funds. Well, what are these? Because we're also asking for additional funds on item 16, and 15 is a bit iffy to me. Are we actually paying Point Claire or something to do some work. I thought that, no, I guess normally when they come up, you'll clarify that, but I was just want to say that it was something that struck me. But my real question tonight is Mayor Summit Woods. We're going to have a capital cost budget coming down, and we had been hoping, actually for many years now, to have what's called a master plan, because then that also allows you to budget. You know, you can say, well, we really need to do this, or because so many things went by the board. So that was supposed to happen, working alongside with Les Amis de la Montagne. That's what the news that we had received in a communique that we got last summer, and that in fact Les Amis was busy up there doing an inventory of invasive species. Well, that's great, but my question was, I come to these meetings, heard of a formal agreement with Les Amis. It would be wonderful because they are just super, but so in fact, do we have a formal agreement with them?
I know Summit Woods is an important thing for us. I've met, before I was mayor, I met with those people and they showed me around and they described to me some of the invasive species and the challenges there with the traffic. And I know it's an important issue and I don't know if we've started working on it yet. Does anybody have any of the council people? Yes.
Good evening. As mentioned on a previous meeting, I don't remember, it's a few months back, I think in the summer, we have two agreements with Les Amis de la Montagne. One is for the inventory of the invasive species, and oh my God, I forget the other one, but we have two. I can get back to you.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Well, that's good. I mean, at least it's working. It's going forward. And that's very reassuring. I'm very happy with that. I don't want to take up too much time. Mr. Mayor, over the years, I was a member of this Summit Woods Advisory Committee, which ran for about 8 years. It started off as a gallop, and then that one kind of got lost on a trail somewhere. But we did do things, and we also did some comprehensive surveys of flowering plants and shrubs. I mean, and much of this is gone. So if people like Les Amis, who are real pros, want any background on this stuff, we have it. So it seems to me at some point in the new year, we can maybe get together, you know, with all the players, because we don't know them anymore. We used to have Marianne Zalzal, who was the director of public works, and we knew this person was the head of roads and parks, and Tim over there. We've lost all that now, and the only thing we know is that every now and then we see Ms. Gaetano, who's the engineer, who comes, and also the guy who does, I shouldn't call him the guy, who does, traffic things. It's really scintillating, but we've lost the contact that I think is helpful to them and to us. Thank you. That's all I'm going to say. Okay.
It's important to us and we will be watching it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonsoir, je m'appelle Patrick Barnard. Mon adresse est 251 avenue Melville. Ma question, c'est pour Monsieur le maire. Mr. Mayor, last meeting I asked you about Westmount's worry about repeating the mistakes at Cabot Square. The mistakes for the city of Montreal had nothing to do with Westmount at that time. And you said very clearly, and I thought it was a good idea, you said, well, we're not going to try to make any mistakes. We're going to try not to make mistakes. So following on that, I'd like to ask you a further question. As you know, the Atwater Library is actually an extraordinary building. As of 2005, it's a National Canadian Heritage Building. Is it possible for you at this time to assure the citizens of Westmount that whatever happens in the Southeast, the integrity of the building will be respected and no mistakes will be made in terms of damaging a very unusual building? Can you make that assurance, or is it premature to do so?
Well, certainly, I've been to the library many times, and I met the board of directors there before I was mayor and after I became mayor. And that building is very important. It's an important institution. There's always concern, or they're very concerned. They don't want necessarily anything near them, and they certainly don't want the thought of any construction that may shake their foundation.
Correct.
But there are ways to do things. To construct and drill nearby without damaging, and we will make sure that that is considered. The library, rest assured, the library is very important to us, and we wouldn't want anything bad to happen to them, and it's an institution, as I agree.
Well, that's very good. So a second question, this may seem a bit silly, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's unfair to say that the last council worked against the library. They certainly didn't work with the library. Can you give us an assurance, because you've met with them, which is great, that as we go forward, you will work with the library?
Yes, as I said, I met them, and they're, looks like to be a very valuable institution. It's been around since 1820. It was the engineers or mechanics.
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
And I know I met with the board, and they impressed upon me the importance of maintaining it, and certainly that would be our goal.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed.
Before we continue, I would like to ask for a moment of silence in memory of the 14 students of the École Polytechnique who were taken by an act of gender-based violence, with your permission. Although the anniversary has passed, honoring them tonight reminds us that their absence continues to call for action and commitment to protect the lives and the right of all women.
Okay, we're all in agreement.
1 minute of silence.
Did you have another question?
Yes.
So maybe ask your question.
We're currently in the 16 days of activism promoted by UN Women, an international call from November 25th to December 10 each year that urges not to remain silent in the face of violence against women. So the question is for you, dear Mayor, and the councillors. Today, I speak not only as a neighbor, but also as the president of a collective committed to placing women at the center of every decision. And with that spirit, I would like to ask you, for 2026, is there already a clear gender-focused activism agenda planned for these 16 days?
No, we haven't discussed it. But women are very important to us. They're half our population. But I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
Good evening. Pietro Gasparini at 564 Claremont. So I submitted my questions before, but I'm going to just mention them both. So I have two questions. The first one is about question period. So I came to a meeting in September, and then when I went back to the minutes to see my question, I noticed that the questions actually aren't part of your minutes. So the whole question period is not documented, which is a bit, I think what was done earlier is fantastic, answering questions and doing the follow-up, but you're still limiting it to the people who are watching and who are sitting here, and the follow-up is not, I guess there's no continuity. And which brings me to my second question. So I came in September to ask about geothermal permits. So I learned when I was applying for my permit for a geothermal heating system that the formula used to calculate the cost of my permit is based on the whole entirety of the work, which includes drilling, which can be very expensive, $20,000 to $40,000. So I got financially penalized for putting in a geothermal system by Westmount, because had I just put an electrical heating system and thermal pump, it would have cost a lot less. So when I came to council in September, everyone loved the idea, said we should not be doing that. It does against the city's sustainability goals and whatnot. But there's no record of my question. So now I have to come back.
No, it was, we've changed it, but I think it only starts in 2026. The permit is now $100. Is that right? $100 for?
I didn't even know. Well, I was
It's
told at the
$100?
last meeting that the next council had to make the change.
I think it was done already, and,
No?
okay, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
Harrison.
Mayor. So Yes, actually, the last council heard exactly what you'd asked, and we did. Those of us who were on that last council agreed wholeheartedly with you and set the wheels in motion for this council to adopt in its schedule of tariffs, which is where all the fees and costs for things for this year, for solar panels or for geothermal work to be $100. We're giving notice of motion later tonight of the change.
Oh, fantastic.
With all the rest of the tariffs that we'll be bringing forward. So the procedure here is we give notice of motion, we come back at a later meeting, and then we actually pass that as a bylaw. And then after that point, your suggestion will become reality. It will be $100.
Fantastic.
And
So
with
thank you for your contribution.
I
And with
did pay
regards
the
to your
original
first
amount, though.
question as to the recording of the questions, according to the law, the minutes of a municipal council meeting must include the council's actions, in other words, resolutions, and its deliberations, the vote, let's say, of each of the elected officials. The law does not require that public comment be recorded, public comments. The minutes document the council's official decisions, not comments or questions. However, having said that, I mean, everything is recorded, so everybody can watch and see the questions, and you see that I've committed to
I think that's
answering the
great.
questions next meeting to those that we couldn't answer on the spot.
Fantastic. Well,
So
thank you.
thank
and
you.
I guess it is much more efficient than I expected. Thank you.
Thank
Isn't it?
Mr. Aronson?
Just to round out your answer, Mr. Mayor, as you have now read into the record the answer to all the questions from the last meeting, they would appear in the minutes as a summary of your comments. So by doing so, you have ensured going forward, if you continue to read the answers to the minutes, or to the questions asked in the previous council meeting, that they will always appear in the minutes of the meeting that follows the meeting where the question was asked, with an answer.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening, Nigel Goddard, 592 Côte Saint-Antoine. My question is, who is looking after the traffic synchronization on Sherbrooke Street? I know that this is there's a department that looks after this, so I would like to see more consistent synchronized lights, particularly on Sherbrooke. In all the years I've been here, St. Catherine seems to be okay. In previous mandates, there were a number of reasons why it couldn't be done. So I'm thinking moving forward, if there's a way, or if there's a study, or if there's some way of getting...
laughing. I'm laughing because I always say to myself, the lights on our Sherbrooke are synchronized to upset you, because I feel the same thing. But I don't think that was anybody's intention. One thing I do know, the city of Kirkland installed a system that apparently cost $1.8 million, which is very effective. I spoke to the mayor myself, Mayor of Kirkland, that is, it cost $1.8 million over a 5-year period, including maintenance and whatever it is. And they say so far it's very ineffective. We will be getting a report on what they found, but preliminary, what they've done is, like on, I think it's St. Charles, a very busy street, especially in the morning, people all heading to the same place to work, and they found that the synchronized lighting system that they acquired has been a significant help to them. We'll be looking at that as well. Of course, we have other requirements. We're waiting to see our April 30th report that I talked about with all the infrastructure needs, but that is on our radar to see if we can do something, and maybe ask the DG in the meantime if we could look at entre-temps, like before we go and buy something, is there anything we could do? So thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Levine.
Yes, Mr. Levine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nigel, I had a question directed at me, that exact same topic.
Right.
And I did refer it to the Director General.
Okay.
I received a response that they would, Public Works would really appreciate if you fill out the Citizens Portal report that the Mayor was referring to. They needed some details as to what time of day you're referring to, what specific blocks. When they get that information, they will investigate and they will respond as best as possible to your concerns. So I do suggest that you try that system.
The portal, okay.
We believe it's going to be effective.
Since the mayor mentioned another municipality, I'd like to mention one where they seem to get it right. And I'm sure many of you have seen it. I see a nodding head. You know what I'm talking about? Rockland. If you drive from Jean Talon to Rockland Shopping Centre at 40 kilometers, 9 out of 10 times you will make every light. And I think, why couldn't Sherbrooke Street
And
be the
that
same way?
specific street was brought up in the question that was submitted to me, so I submitted it as well. It's been received, but please fill it out in the report because
yeah.
it's important that Public Works gets your question with that specific issue, mentioning Rockland and the time of day, the streets, and so on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening, Richard Dufour from Anwath. I noticed that on the agenda there is a topic about appointing or nominating somebody in charge of Hydro-Quebec's customer service. My question is a bit broader regarding, so not Hydro-Quebec, sorry, Hydro-Westmount. My question is a bit broader, but it does deal with hydro. I have a cottage where I just recently implemented a smart thermostat program which Hydro-Quebec offers. It's called Hilo, and it's very, very well designed. They provide smart thermostats for free, and in exchange you participate in something called challenges. So for example, today on particularly cold days, you get a notice by text and or email saying they're going to automatically, remotely lower your thermostats, and that is to kind of help preserve energy and reduce demand during peak times, because that's always the problem, is during peak periods when it's very, very cold. Westmount Hydro, I think, has lots of challenges ahead of it, but I think this would be an interesting project to embark on. I'm surprised we don't have it already, and I'd like to know if that's going to be considered to have something similar for our population.
That sounds like a very good idea. Julie?
But in the update that we will give to council in April, things like that will be addressed, for sure.
Just, it doesn't allow it because of our infrastructure or just because of our technology?
Infrastructure and technology.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no more questions, let's go on to number 4, the adoption of the agenda. I'll call upon Councillor Chamy.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Adoption de l'ordre de jour. Je propose que l'ordre de jour de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 8 décembre 2025 soit adopté avec l'ajout de points suivants sous Affaires nouvelles, la contingence services professionnels pour la caractérisation environnementale des sols diverses de la ville de Westmount, PUB 2025-050.
Thank you. Item number 5, confirmation of minutes. Councillor Chamy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the minutes of the, sorry.
Yes?
Oh, we have to vote.
Oh, yes,
We have
sorry,
to vote.
sorry. Yes, sorry.
I apologize.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Aronson, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Thank you, passed. Sleep on the job. Item number 5, confirmation of minutes.
Thank you,
Councillor
Mr. Mayor.
Chamy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the minutes of the regular council sitting held November 17th, 2025 be now approved.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor D'Amico, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, passed. 6.1, tabling of minutes of correction, Resolution 2025-11-293. I call upon the Assistant City Clerk.
So in accordance with Section 92.1 of the Cities and Town Act, the SSI tabled the minutes of correction for Resolution 2025-11-293.
It requires a vote? No. Reports to Council, 6.2, Workforce Report. I call upon Councillor Chamy.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Le rapport de la main-d'œuvre pour le mois de novembre 2025 est maintenant déposé.
Thank you. 6.3, Payment Registry. Councillor D'Amico.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. La liste des paiements pour le mois d'octobre 2025 est déposée.
Thank you. 6.4, List of Approvals in virtue of Bylaw 1507. Councillor Chamy.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Conformément au règlement 1507 sur la délégation de pouvoir à certains employés de la Ville de Westmount, la liste d'autorisation des dépenses pour le mois d'octobre 2025 est maintenant déposé.
Thank you. 6.5, list of duties on transfer invoices. Duties on transfers invoices. Councilor D'Amico.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The list of duties on transfers for the month of October 2025 are tabled.
Okay, next, general business and administration section. Item number 7, appointments chair and trustees of the Westmount Public Library Committee. I call upon Councilor Chada.
I propose that Iris Bednartzi be appointed trustee of the Westmount Public Library Committee for a 3-year term of office effective January 1, 2026. Je propose que Martin Brault soit nommé curateur du comité de la Bibliothèque publique de Westmount pour un mandat de 3 ans à compter le 1er janvier 2026. Je propose que Jessica Rosser soit nommée présidente du comité de la Bibliothèque publique de Westmount pour un mandat d'1 an à compter du 1er janvier 2026.
Do I have a seconder? Councilor Shami, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Item number 8, 2026 schedule for regular council meetings. I call upon Councilor Shami.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the schedule of the 2026 regular council sittings be determined as followed. Tuesday, January 13th, 7 p.m. Tuesday, February 3rd, 7 p.m. Tuesday, the 3rd of March, 7 p.m. Tuesday, the 14th of April, 7 p.m. Mardi, le 5 mai, 19h. Mardi, le 2 juin, 19h. Mardi, le 7 juillet, 19h. Mardi, le 4 août, 19h. Wednesday, September 9th, 7 p.m. Tuesday, October 6th, 7 p.m. Tuesday, November 3rd, 7 p.m. And Tuesday, December 1st, 7 p.m. And Mr. Mayor, if I may, just to remind our residents that we've moved to the first Tuesday of the month. That is a change, as previously we were the first Monday of the month. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There were some comments about one of the dates having to do with the school break, but we may have to change one date later on. But in the meantime, I accept your proposal. To pass this as is? Do I have a seconder?
Seconder.
Who's that? Paul Levine. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Contractual matters. Item number 9, awarding of a contract to purchase 2,000 meters of 15 kV cable. Won't go into all the detail. Well, 3x1 twisted conductors, 40 AWG gauge stranded copper, PUB-2025-054. I call upon Councilor D'Amico.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Je propose que le contrat soit accordé à Westco Distribution Canada LP, le tout conformément aux documents contractuels de l'appel d'offres public PUB-2025-054. Qu'une dépense de 297 681,77, toutes taxes incluses, 258 910 $, incluant le crédit de taxe, soit autorisée et que les sommes nécessaires aux fins de cette dépense soient puissées à même les disponibilités du poste budgétaire 58-258-00-000.
All in favor?
Seconder.
Oh, sorry, seconder, sorry. Mr. Shami, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 10, this calls for a joint purchase with the City of Montreal for de-icing salt for the 2025-2026 winter season. We do jointly buy things with them, including this item. Saves us money. So I call upon Councilor Shami.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and especially with the weather, Mr. Mayor and ladies and gentlemen, you all see with the condition of how cold it is, how important our desalting and sanding is. I move, Mr. Mayor, that Council authorize the issuance of a purchase order in the total amount of $1,032,931.80, all taxes included, for the purchase of regular salt under the group purchase agreement coordinated by the City of Montreal with Compass Mineral Canada Corp., and that the Director of Public Works be authorized to sign on behalf of the city any document deemed necessary for the implementation of this resolution, and that the necessary funds for this expenditure be drawn from the available funds from the budget item 58-250-00-000.
Do I have, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor D'Amico, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 11, renewal of contract for housekeeping services for our various municipal buildings, PUB 2021-038. I call upon Councillor Shami.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the renewal of the contract with Axia Services, Inc. for the janitorial services of various municipal buildings be authorized for the period from January 1st, 2026 through to December 31st, 2026, and that a maximum expenditure of $930,364.45, taxes included, be authorized for the purpose of this contract in conformity with the contractual documents of Call for Tenders PUB 2021-038. And finally, that the required funds for this expenditure be drawn from available amounts under the following budget items. Mr. Mayor, do I have to list every building?
I don't think so.
Do I do? No.
No.
Perfect.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor D'Amico, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 12, renewal of contract for pruning and structural consolidation, PUB-2024-046. I call upon Councillor Aronson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So whereas contract PUB 2024-046 relates to the cyclical pruning of the city's public trees for safety purposes and to support their growth, and whereas in January 2025, the contract was awarded to Arbo Design Incorporated for the first year of the execution, and it's now appropriate to renew it for an additional year, and whereas the work plan for 2026 will be carried out for a total amount of $191,600.78, taxes included, I move that the renewal of contract PUB 2024-046 with Arbo Design for the cyclical pruning and structural consolidation of the city's public trees be authorized for the year 2026 for an amount of $191,600.78, all taxes included, and the amounts. I further move that the amounts required for this expenditure be taken from the available funds in budget item 02-752-20-457.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Chada, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? Motion carried. You know, I just thought occurred to me, like a lot of people, wasn't that long ago, I was sitting in the audience, people they may not necessarily know when an amount is quoted with all taxes included. The city does recover the GST, and these amounts are gross. We do recover all 100% of the GST and 50% of the provincial Quebec sales tax, just for your information. Item number 13, request for additional funds. IMK is the law firm. File, well, we'll read the file number. I call upon Councillor Aronson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a subject of the question asked by Mr. Fretz earlier today, and concerning additional funds. So I'm going to give you the whereases so you get some orientation of what we're doing here. So whereas the City of Westmount granted to IMK SCNCRL, which is the French version of LLP, the mandate to ensure its defense in a case numbered 500-05-029-797-972 by resolution number 2016-09-190. So this was in 2016. And whereas the case is currently awaiting trial dates, and whereas it is necessary to allocate additional funds to continue paying legal fees and to continue adequate representation of the city in this case, and whereas the legal department recommends the allocation in the amount of $5,748.75, taxes included, in order to cover the upcoming legal fees in the case, I move that council authorize a maximum expenditure of $5,748.75, taxes included, which would be $5,248.38, including the tax credit, for the legal services of SENCRL, in order to ensure the representation of the City of Westmount in the case. And I further move that the sums necessary for this expenditure be taken from the available budget item 02-140-00412.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Paul Levine. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 14, which is the awarding of contract for collection and transport of recyclable materials by crane loading of semi-buried containers for the cities of Pointe Claire and Dollard des Ormeaux. I call upon Councillor Moss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Correct me if I'm wrong, Madame DG, this has zero financial obligation on our part. Correct. So I'll read through. I move that contract PUB 2025-056 for the collection and transportation of recyclable materials by loading semi-underground containers for the cities of Pointe Claire and Dollard des Ormeaux be awarded to Service Ricova, Inc., that the City of Westmount not be required to issue a purchase order, as payments for this contract will be made directly by the cities concerned, that the Director of Public Works be authorized to sign all contractual documents required to give effect to this resolution.
Seconder? Chomsky. Councillor Chomsky, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 15, which is the awarding of contract replacement of 3 compressors at Victoria Hall. I call upon Councillor Moss, but somebody asked a question before, what was this about? So this is a complete, these are 3 air conditioning compressors. If you know, the air conditioning has not been working for a while, so much so in the summer the city had to rent a chiller. And now we're in a position to fix it. We found out what has to be done, and it's the replacement of 3 carrier compressors. So I call upon Councillor Moss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that contract INV-2025-027 for the supply and installation of 3 compressors at Victoria Hall be awarded to Neve Refrigeration, Inc. for a total amount of $75,947.66, tax included, that the Director of the Engineering Department be authorized to sign any document necessary to give full effect to this resolution, that the necessary amounts for this expenditure be drawn from the funds available in budget item 23-312-04-007.
Do I have a seconder? D'Amico, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We're at item number 16, which is a request for additional funds. I call upon Councillor Aronson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is similar to the last motion that I moved at 13. This is number 16, and it is, again, a legal case where we need to top up the amount of funds available to the city's legal representatives, although it is a slightly different situation, so I will read the whereases. Whereas since 2021, the City of Westmount, together with other related municipalities of the agglomeration, have been involved in proceedings before the Superior Court of Quebec, and that's file number 500-17-115-279-211. And whereas the firm of IMK SENCRL represents the related municipalities in the matter, and whereas the City of Dorval acts as an intermediary for receiving and paying IMK's fees on behalf of the municipalities involved, and whereas the file is currently awaiting a court summons to set trial dates, and whereas a new resolution is necessary to continue paying invoices on this matter, I move that Council authorize a maximum expenditure of $5,000, taxes included, which would be $4,565.66, including the tax credit, for the legal services of IMK SENCRL to ensure the representation of the City of Westmount in this matter. I further move that this amount be paid to the City of Dorval for the payment of IMK's fees. And finally, I move that the necessary funds for this expenditure be drawn from the appropriations of the budget item 02-140-00-412.
Do I have a seconder? Chada, Councillor Chada. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I lost my place. 17. Additional funds purchase of asphalt. I call upon Councillor Shami.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that an expenditure of $4,782.96, taxes included, be authorized for the year 2025, and an expenditure of $16,740.36, taxes included, be authorized for the period between January 1st, 2026 and April 14th, 2026, and that the funds required for this expenditure be taken from the available balance of budget item 02-321-00625. And this, Mr. Mayor, is for Public Works to purchase additional metric tons of hot asphalt.
For potholes, which we have
For
many.
the pothole.
Do I have a seconder, Councillor D'Amico? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Item number 18, renewal of contract of support and maintenance of PG Solutions products. I'd like to call upon Councillor Chomsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to provide some context, PG Solutions provides essential software for the smooth operations of the city, specifically but not limited to financial and accounting management, taxation, and permit management within urban planning. I therefore move that the renewal of support, maintenance, and software update agreements with PG Solutions, Inc. for all the currently used municipal systems for a duration of 1 year, starting January 1st, 2026, at a cost of $118,651, taxes included, be authorized. That an expenditure of that same amount, taxes included, be authorized for this purpose. That the Director of Information Technology be and is hereby authorized to sign any and all documents required to give effect to this resolution, that the required funds for this expenditure be drawn from the available amounts under budget item 02-132-00527.
Do I have a, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shami. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Item number 19, awarding of contract, LinkedIn Ireland Unlimited Company. I'd like to call upon Councillor Shami.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council award a contract to LinkedIn Ireland Unlimited Company in the amount of $26,080 per year for a 2-year term for a total of $52,160 tax included, and that the Director of Human Resources be authorized to sign any document required to give full effect of this resolution, and that the funds required for this expenditure be taken from the available amounts in budget item 02-160-00341.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Chomsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We now get into the urban planning section, item number 20. So here there are 3 applications for minor exemptions. One for 76 Summit Crescent, one for 358 Olivier, and the third one is, which is 2022, 618 Sydenham. So I'd like to call, first of all, I'd like to ask if there are any interested parties who have any issues or questions regarding these exemptions. If not, I'll turn it over to Councillor Moss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bear with me. These are urban planning issues, so we have to read through the whole thing. It might take a while. Whereas the mayor invites interested parties to address the council regarding the minor exemption. Whereas by law 1576 on minor exemptions of the City of Westmount was adopted on September 20th, 2021. Whereas a request for a minor exemption must comply with the objectives of the planning program. Whereas a minor exemption must be considered as minor, particularly in terms of its quantitative impact, environmental impact, and architectural impact. Whereas the enforcement of the regulatory provisions relevant to the request must result in serious hardship for the person requesting the minor exemption. Whereas the exemption must not adversely affect the enjoyment of the property rights of neighboring property owners. Whereas the exemption must not exacerbate risks regarding public safety or health or harm environmental quality or general well-being. Whereas the request for a minor exemption is aimed at allowing the construction of a second balcony located in the backyard, which would increase the building site coverage to 47.3%, even though the table of physical and spatial specifications table in Schedule A.1 of Zoning Bylaw 1303 for Zone R1-01-01, Section 9, prescribes a maximum building site coverage of 35%, which is a difference of 12.3%, as well as to allow a vegetative surfaces percentage of 48.4% in the backyard, even though Section 5.5.9.2 of Zoning Bylaw 1303 stipulates that in the case of a rear yard of a lot or parcel of land located in a residential zone or in one of the commercial zone indicated in the first paragraph, vegetative surfaces must occupy at least 60% of the yard area. Whereas the footprint is currently 46.05%, which is already non-compliant with Zoning Bylaw 1303, whereas the proposed balcony would be of identical size and positioned in the same manner as the second balcony shown on the building's original construction plans from 1962, whereas the second balcony appearing on the building's original construction plans no longer exists, whereas the proposed balcony would restore symmetry to the rear facade as illustrated in the building's original construction plans, whereas the applicant would increase the rear yard vegetative surface rate from 12.1% to 48.4%, whereas the presence of an existing in-ground pool makes it impossible to achieve compliance with the minimum rear yard vegetative surface rate required by Section 5.5.9.2 of Zoning Bylaw 1303, whereas the minutes of the special meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee, PAC, held on October 7th, 2025, have been filed, whereas the PAC issued an opinion regarding this request as stated in the minutes of its special meeting on minor exemption request held on October 7th, 2025, I move that the above preamble forms an integral part of this notice, that Council approve the construction of a second balcony located in the backyard, which would increase the building site coverage to 47.3%, even though the table of physical and spatial specifications table in Schedule A.1 of Zoning Bylaw 1303 for Zone R1-01-01, Section 9 prescribes a maximum building site coverage of 35%, which is a difference of 12.3%, as well as to allow a vegetative surfaces percentage of 48.4% in the backyard, even though Section 5.5.9.2 of Zoning Bylaw 1303 stipulates that in the case of a rear yard or lot or parcel of land located in a residential zone or in one of the commercial zone indicated in the first paragraph, vegetative surfaces must occupy at least 60% of the yard area, representing a difference of 11.6%.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councilor D'Amico. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Item number 21, regarding application for minor exemption at 358 Olivier Avenue. I call upon Councilor Moss again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the mayor invites interested parties to address the council regarding the minor exemption, whereas bylaw 1576 on minor exemptions of the City of Westmount was adopted on September 20th, 2021, whereas a request for a minor exemption must comply with the objectives of the planning program, whereas a minor exemption must be considered as minor, particularly in terms of its quantitative impact, environmental impact, and architectural impact, whereas the enforcement of the regulatory provisions relevant to the request must result in serious hardship for the person requesting the minor exemption, whereas the exemption must not adversely affect the enjoyment of the property rights of neighboring property owners, whereas the exemption must not exacerbate risks regarding public safety or health or harm environmental quality or general well-being, Whereas the request for a minor exemption is aimed at regularizing a mistake in the siting of a new garage, which is located at 0.71 meters from the rear lot line, whereas point 1 of subsection 5.3.5 of zoning bylaw 1303 provides that, notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 5.3.3, an accessory building may be established, 1, on the rear line of a lot or parcel of land, provided that if the rear line borders a lane, one wall of the accessory building is established 3 feet or 0.91 meter from and parallel to the rear line, which is a difference of 0.2 meters. Whereas the error appears to have been made in good faith, whereas the garage was completed when the error was discovered, and that only the partial or complete demolition of the garage would allow compliance with subsection 5.3.5 of zoning bylaw 1303, whereas the minutes of the special meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee held on October 7th, 2025, were tabled at the present meeting, whereas the PAC issued an opinion regarding this request as stated in the minutes of the special meeting on minor exemption request held on October 7th, 2025, I move that the above preamble form an integral part of this notice, that Council approve the request for a minor exemption to regularize a mistake in the siting of a new garage, which is located at 0.71 meters from the rear lot line, whereas point 1 of subsection 5.3.5 of zoning bylaw 1303 provides that, notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 5.3.3, an accessory building may be established, 1, on the rear line of a lot or parcel of land, provided that if the rear line borders a lane, one wall of the accessory building is established 3 feet or 0.91 meter from and parallel to the rear line, which is a difference of 0.2 meters.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Shami, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 22, which is an application for minor exemption at 618 Sydenham Avenue. I call upon Councilor Moss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the mayor invites interested parties to address the council regarding the minor exemption, whereas bylaw 1576 on minor exemptions of the city of Westmount was adopted on September 20th, 2021, whereas a request for a minor exemption must comply with the objectives of the planning program, whereas a minor exemption must be considered as minor, particularly in terms of its quantitative impact, environmental impact, and architectural impact, whereas the enforcement of the regulatory provisions relevant to the request must result in serious hardship for the person requesting the minor exemption, whereas the exemption must not adversely affect the enjoyment of the property rights of neighboring property owners, whereas the exemption must not exacerbate risks regarding public safety or health, or harm environmental quality or general well-being, whereas the request for a minor exemption is aimed at allowing the construction of a new backyard deck that would increase the building site coverage to 48%, even though the table of physical and spatial specifications table in Schedule A.1 of Zoning Bylaw 1303 for Zone R1-06-01 prescribed in Section 9 a maximum building site coverage of 35% if the lot or land area is less than 743.2 square meters, as well as allowing an uncovered space in the side yard of 1.82 meters on the west side, even though subsection 5.3.2 provides for an uncovered space with a minimum width of 2.13 meters, which is a difference of 0.31 meters, whereas the existing deck is in very poor condition and, according to the applicant, cannot be repaired, whereas the proposed deck has a smaller area than the existing deck it would replace, whereas, according to the applicant, it would be impossible to construct a reasonably usable deck while respecting the maximum building footprint of 35% on the lot, whereas the proposed deck would nonetheless improve compliance with a building footprint that is 5% less than the existing situation on the lot, whereas the applicant agrees to increase the vegetative surfaces in the front and rear yards to compensate for the non-compliant footprint on the lot and to retain at least one tree in the rear yard, whereas the applicant is unable to verify the presence of vested rights on the non-compliant open space in the west side yard, and that only relocating the west side wall of the building would allow compliance with subsection 5.3.2 of zoning bylaw 1303, whereas the minutes of the special meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee held on October 7th, 2025 have been tabled, whereas the PAC issued an opinion regarding this request as stated in the minutes of its special meeting concerning minor exemption request held on October 7th, 2025. I move that the above preamble form an integral part of this notice, that Council approve the request for a minor exemption to allow the construction of a new backyard deck that would increase the building site coverage to 48%, even though the table of physical and spatial specifications table in Schedule A.1 of zoning bylaw 1303 for the zone R1-06-01 prescribes in Section 9 a maximum building site coverage of 35% if the lot or land area is less than 743.2 square meters, as well as allowing an uncovered space in the side yard of 1.82 meters on the west side, even though subsection 5.3.2 provides for an uncovered space with a maximum width of 2.13 meters, which is a difference of 0.31 meters.
Thank you very much. Seconder, Councillor Levine. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 23, SPAIP authorization request for minor exemptions. I call upon Councillor Moss one more time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one's a short one. Whereas the minutes of the special meeting on minor exemptions of the Planning Advisory Committee held on October 7th, 2025 were tabled at the meeting of November 17th, 2025. Whereas applications have been submitted by the applicants pursuant to bylaw 1305 on site planning and architectural integration programs. Whereas the PAC has issued recommendations regarding these applications as set out in the minutes of the special meeting on minor exemptions held by the Planning Advisory Committee on October 7th, 2025, I move that the Municipal Council act on the recommendations of the Planning Advisory Committee as set out in the minutes of the special meeting on minor exemptions held on October 7th, 2025, and approve, with respect to each of them, the plans and conditions for the issuance of permits attached to these items appearing in the list below, as assessed in accordance with bylaw 1305 on site planning and architectural integration programs.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor D'Amico, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Must be tired now. Item number 24, which are bylaws. Notice of motion bylaw 1646 to establish tariffs for the 2026 fiscal year. Did I just read it? Or Councillor Aronson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is actually just a notice of motion, so there's no vote necessary.
Okay.
So I give a notice of motion of the intention to submit for adoption at a subsequent sitting of the council, bylaw number 1646, entitled Bylaw to Establish Tariffs for the 2026 fiscal year. The purpose of this bylaw is to update municipal tariffs, which is essential to maintain the quality of services provided to the public and ensuring adequate funding for municipal activities. The update takes into account cost increases, strategic directions, and adjustments required to maintain a balanced budget. A copy of this draft bylaw is now available for public consultation on the city's website. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Aronson. Human Resources, item 25, I call upon Councillor D'Amico. It's relating to contractual appointment for head of division, Hydro Westmount Customer Service.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the Cities and Towns Act, Council appoints by resolution the officers and employees it deems necessary for the administration of the city and determines their remuneration. Whereas following the resignation of the head of division Customer Service, it is essential to ensure the continuity of operations within this division of Hydro Westmount. Whereas the Human Resources Department recommends the appointment of Ms. Chantal Leroux, former holder of the position as head of division Hydro Westmount Customer Service. Je propose que le Conseil approuve la nomination contractuelle de Mme Chantal Leroux au poste chef de division service à la clientèle au service d'Hydro-Westmount à compter du 9 décembre 2025 à raison de 3 jours par semaine et pour une durée maximale de 6 mois, et ce, conformément aux conditions de travail et de rémunération du personnel cadre. Que la rémunération soit fixée selon le groupe de traitement 8, taux 2025, et à même les disponibilités du poste budgétaire 02-810-00-111. Et que cette nomination soit assujettie à une période de probation conformément à la Convention sur les conditions de travail et de rémunération du personnel cadre.
Seconder, Councilor Shami. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, motion carried. New business item number 26, contingency professional services for the environmental characterization of various soils at the City of Westmount, PUB 2025-050. I call upon Councilor Chomsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This matter relates to an existing contract, and there is a request from the engineering department to provide additional services within that contract, specifically with regards to sampling that is required for a street which contemplated for some interventions, I think, in the springtime or at some point next year on Côte-Saint-Antoine, and for them to be able to take that material to the dump or to be recycled or to be dealt with, there is sampling that needs to be done. So with that in mind, I move that an additional sum of $11,227.31, taxes included, be allocated to contract PUB 2025-050 for the coring and environmental testing of soils of potential future capital works projects, that the necessary amounts for this expenditure be drawn from the funds of budget item 233105100.
Thank you, Councilor Chomsky. Seconder, Councilor Aronson, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We're at item number 27, which is the second question period. Are there people in the audience who have any questions? It's Alec, right? Alex?
Yeah, Alec. Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening. I would like to first thank you, Mr. Mayor, for having responded, having given me an update about the question I raised 3 weeks ago. Thank you again for just bringing a fresh wave to Council. I really appreciate it. I would also like to acknowledge Councillor Chada. I raised an issue about the Wi-Fi to the library after the last council meeting. And, well, you kept me informed of the updates, and I was there this morning, and the Wi-Fi is working smoothly, so I really appreciate it because it has never been working smoothly over the past, so I really appreciate it, and I'm really grateful for responding promptly to my issue. I would like to speak tonight about the PPU. I emailed you earlier this afternoon with four proposals that I think maybe the city should look at while moving forward with the plan. Just would like to clarify, we've had a lot of divisiveness over the past 2 years. I do not intend to be divisive about that. I think we should all, it's a project, it's a vision for the future for our city, and we should now all be looking at what can we do to improve the current framework that was adopted a few months ago. So I'd like to make a proposition that I did not specify in my email. I just wanted to make it publicly because I think it is a matter that is that could interest a lot of people. And just in reference to, I forgot your name, sir, Monsieur, I really forgot, but you were talking about the Patrick, you were talking about the outdoor library, and I think, just moving forward, and to be honest, I understand there are still people that are opposed, there are people that are in favor, but maybe what I would propose to the city is maybe to put around the table to bring all stakeholders, around a table. It could be, promoters, elected officials, residents, the outdoor library, as we were talking earlier. Because it is so important to make sure that everyone's point of view gets heard moving forward. I know it may be really complex, it takes a lot of time, But if we want to make sure that things are happening the right way and that everyone is happy in a way of the way the PPU is being conveyed, that would be something that I think it would be worth considering for the city just moving forward.
So thank you for your comments. So at this point, a certain zoning change has been made by the previous council. As you know, we're waiting for the agglomeration us to approve this by the middle of January, and our intention is all of us have to, we've had some briefing on it, but it's a big file, and we'll take into consideration your comments. We've all thought of it as well, that we want to get everybody together and get the best minds to come up with some specifics, but we're waiting to see the approval by the agglomeration, and we will remember your recommendation. Thank you.
Je vous tends la main et je tends également la main à la conseillère Caz aussi. Je pense que c'est sûr qu'on a peut-être, oui, on a des accords, puis probablement on a plusieurs désaccords avec peut-être tout le monde, mais je pense que c'est peut-être, moi je vous tends la main, puis je tends la main à tout le monde. Travaillons de manière constructive sur ce projet-là. Je pense qu'on est tellement une belle communauté à Westmount. Travaillons sur ce qui nous unit plutôt que de nous diviser. Donc, j'aimerais juste faire just another proposal, another suggestion maybe about the library this time. And I'm sure it won't even cost a penny for the city to implement that, maybe that little fix-in. So before COVID, I believe there used to be 2 study rooms that people could book in advance. And during COVID, there's one of these 2 study rooms that got converted into an office. So as a result, now we only have 1 room that we can book. And, there are a lot of people booking that room, so it is very popular. So there are really limited time spots. So what I would propose is that down the hallway where we have all the offices in the library, there's a conference room that is often, that is not often in use. Sometimes there are some programs running there, but there are a lot of students like myself who work in teams, and just the way people work in the library. Yes, there are a lot of spaces where people can gather, but it's a quiet spot. So in that conference room, there are a lot of chairs. There's even a screen where people could even project their computer and their files. So it may be maybe, I don't know if the city could maybe make that second conference room that is not too often in use maybe available for the public to book it on the weekends, for example, or when there are no events occurring there. And again, I don't know if it would be possible, but I think it won't even cost a penny to the city, or it would be a really quick change to implement. So I just wanted to have your thoughts on that.
I don't have any thoughts on it, but we will look into it.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John Fretz. Mayor, I'd like to ask you, in the run-up of the election, there was some idea was proposed that we should have a design contest for the allotments that we own on the southeast. Are you favorable to this, and would you spend money on something like to promote this idea?
It's on our agenda to look at. I know a suggestion was made that it should have originally been that way. We should have had a design contest, but it doesn't mean we can't do it now. Certainly for the lots that we own. So we will look into that as well, and we're making a note of it when we look at the whole file.
And how do you propose to proceed? Will we have a steering committee or something to?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who have volunteered. We have a lot of talented people here in Westmount who have a lot of experience relating to development of projects, architects, urban planners, besides our own excellent staff in-house. We're going to get people together and see what we come up with.
And this will be reflected in the new budget, I imagine?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Down. Penny Arsenault, 4700 St. Catherine. I know you guys just bought a lot of salt, but I probably missed my timing, but I just find the salt and sand and grit completely out of control these days. There's like 1 inch thick across all of St. Catherine Street from where I live. What I do now is I go down to St. Henry because at least I walk my dog and he's just always lifting up his paws. The salt is really, I know Westmount errs on the side of caution. Of course, you want everybody to feel safe, but I don't know, maybe you guys are trying to get rid of the old stockpile since you're about to buy a bunch more, but has there ever been a study?
I see the Councillor Shami has,
Yeah.
can probably answer you.
Thank you. As my new Commissionership of Public Works, I recently was speaking to a young group of students who were asking, why do we use so much salt? And I explained, Mr. Mayor and ma'am, that not only are we 150 years old, we're on a mountain, there's a ton of water, and water comes over the mountain, and where does it go? Down. And the freezing, the thawing, the freezing, and we do err on caution, prudence, and safety. And I must say, today I was driving around in the roads, it was minus 15, and in the wind chill, minus 25. Even our salt that we buy with the City of Montreal, $1 million, Mr. Mayor, today, we just approved the PO. We use $1 million of salt to keep our streets safe. Now, dog walkers and pet walkers, it's hard on our pets.
Yeah, it's hard on the environment as well, and
we have
it all
looked,
gets washed into the water eventually.
We've looked at beet juice, we've looked at other jurisdictions in Japan and in Europe, in other Nordic countries that have similar issues. There's a question of ecologic that you raise, the environmental side. I know our Councillor Moss on the environmental stuff will look at it, but at the end of the day, the safety of these hills, they're the first roads that we salt, and
But is there a science, like, because I find sometimes when there's about to be a thaw, all the guys are out spewing salt all over the place. It seems to me it should be just before a freeze. Also, the more salt you use...
You ask a good question, but there is a science. I really believe the Public Works Directorate and the division, and they're very committed to the safety of our streets. But, maybe, the day that it's going from minus 15 to 0, the trucks are out, and did we really need that much to be dumped right at your doorstep? Probably not. But at times, the weatherman, that Russian weather guy, is wrong. The weather is not perfect. They tell you it's going to be this, and it's that.
Right.
We must always err on prudence and safety, but we take your comments with a great grain of salt. Thank you.
Okay.
We met with people involved, the employees involved with the salt and the snow removal, and it's a very complicated thing because of, as you mentioned, the fact that we're on a hill. There are often days when it's close to freezing, and there's 2 degrees difference between the top of the mountain and the lower.
But using a lot
lower
of
part
salt
the city.
also creates a lot of water. Then you get a lot of water, and the water washes away the salt, and then the water freezes. So I think there could be a study done or something.
We'll
see what
look
the
at it.
other
Bring it
cities
up,
are doing.
We'll bring it up again.
I know it's a complex issue.
We've looked at sand in the past, and then people complain, I want to bring sand into my house. But we will see if we can ask the question again. Thank you.
Councillor?
Councillor Levine?
Just today, I got a complaint from a resident of the 4300, very close to where you're speaking about, that the roads are very icy and slippery, and they have been all weekend, and including today, and the residents are afraid to go out. This is an apartment building with many elderly residents, and they do complain a lot when they feel unsafe.
They can't have been,
So,
it was basically a sand lot.
I'm just telling you,
where
it is a
Yeah, I know.
balancing act, and we
I know.
hear from both sides of the coin, so we try and do our best. I again asked them to contact, to file a report, because it's important to file a report so that our Public Works can look into it. On
Did I file a
on the
report
portal.
as well? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's a good idea.
And I encourage you to do the same, that the portal is a great venue
Okay.
for you to prepare a report. Let Public Works know, they'll investigate and they'll respond.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. I guess we can go to the questions. I don't think we have to read the whole questions. It's a long, we do?
I'll read just the questions.
Well, the
and-
first question you could see it's a whole long thing, but basically the person saying the average Westmount home cost is $2.9 million. Why do we have a subsidy program to replace the lead? That sums up that question, which would take you 5 minutes to read.
What?
No?
Do you want me to read it, or you want to do it yourself?
I think that's good enough. No?
Okay.
That's
I'll
the
let you
question.
answer.
And the answer is, like, we're trying to be helpful to people, despite the fact that the average home is valued at $2.9 million. Some people are financially stronger than others, and we came up with this subsidy program, which was launched in August 2023. It's really to help people, and you can't say it's only available to certain people, it's available to everyone. Applications were accepted retroactively for all private lead service pipe replacements completed on or after January 1, 2023. And I told you I replaced mine just before that, so I don't qualify. Residents who completed their private side replacements before this are not eligible. So I don't think there's anything else to add there. Pietro Gasparini, who's here, asked his 2 questions, and we answered them. I think that's okay. I'm on to the question by Paul Glassman concerning an opaque wooden wall along property line between him and his neighbor. And the answer there is a private matter. It relates to 2 houses, and we don't discuss these things at a meeting, open meeting. There was another question by Jessica Winton, who sent us a very long email, very detailed, about garbage collection, and she was asking about the responses. She sent it all to council people and the mayor. I'm told that she did receive an answer from everyone, and including from me. We sent her an email, and she may not have liked the answer, but we reiterated in our comments that the restoration of the garbage collection to every week is a temporary measure to help people now, and we're committed medium term to a much improved situation where we send a lot less to the landfills. In order to do that, we'll have to educate people a lot more and work with them much more, and that's what we will do. And then there was another question by Diana Hernandez concerning the fact that I approved the $3,000 sewer maintenance expense. And actually, I did, but I made a mistake. I wasn't authorized to do that. I made a mistake. And this matter is, it was communicated to her by both our legal department. One second. Our legal department and the engineering division, that the matter falls under administrative jurisdiction, has already been addressed previously through proper channels. As such, her request to the mayor is not applicable and will not be escalated any further. Thanks for your understanding. So I think that answers all the questions. If there's nothing else, I do want to wish everybody a very happy and healthy season. For holiday season, enjoy time with your families, and we will continue to work for you, and we will see you back in January. January 13th is our next meeting. We have a lot of work to do then. There was a mention of the fact that our budgets will be approved in January. For your information, I would add that part of the reason for this is that in the year of an election, budgets can be deferred to January. They're usually, otherwise the deadline would be December 31st. However, the City of Montreal, the agglomeration, has asked us to defer, all the cities to defer till January, because they're going through their budget one by one, line by line, and part of their budget is what they charge us. So we need those numbers from them in order to finalize our budget. So, and we said we would, and they're new also. They have quite a number of new people elected to the City of Montreal, of course the mayor as well. So we're working with them and cooperating with them, and I wish you all a happy holiday season. And I'm at number 28, closing of the meeting. I consider the meeting adjourned at 8:35. Thank you very much for attending, and thank you very much for your questions.